Hey, welcome to the HireMyVA Team and Business Building Podcast, where we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking the bank, and that means breaking your bank. Hey, guys, I'm here with Larry Broughton. I'm Dave Braun. Larry Broughton, thank you so much for being my partner in all things coaching. You know, you're an awesome business mentor. You help coach me in life, too, and you're my brother.
That's right.
It's like, I can't say much more about you, man. I love you, man.
Hello, handsome Dave. How are you?
How are you today?
Man, it's like you inspire me to be a better human, a better man. So thank you.
Well, it's what's most important, and vice versa, man.
Yeah,
totally.
I'm glad you're in my life.
So we're inspiring each other so we can inspire others as well, right?
That's right. So wear your black shirt, I guess, is the message today.
Yeah, our Johnny Cash impersonations.
Oh, it's sad.
Okay, well, shall we start off with a question for today?
Let's start off with a question. What is our question today?
Well, okay. So in a recent episode, in fact, it was episode 67, the question is, you recently talked about the top characteristics of a good team member, and one of them was being positive, right?
I remember that.
Yes. Yeah. So what do you do if one of your team members is negative? What do you do?
Man, so it's can I set up the preface first on this? Because I've had this in
me
organization. The hard part, I think, oftentimes, Dave, is when you have someone who really is a rock star in what I call the science part of their job, right? Like they're a great technician in what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. But
attitudinally, they're negative and they're dour and they're pessimistic. Those, I think, are the hardest, right?
Yeah.
To deal with. So let me just say this. I've been there.
Yeah, me too.
I've been there. But I think that a challenge that a lot of us have is that we don't have the courage to have these kind of conversations with people. So I think it starts with having the tough conversation with them to set your expectations. But first, it's hard to set your expectations if you don't know what the source of the negativity is. There are some people who are situationally negative, like they don't like that this is happening. And every time this topic or this situation comes up, they lose their patience. And maybe it's just been building over time, right? And then there are other people who just have a negative point of view on their life, right? That latter person, those are harder people to deal with. I think,
right,
that they're just Eeyore, like they have the Eeyoritude. Everything sucks. My life is terrible. This is never going to work. Those types of people, well, in both situations, whether it's a situational negativity or just a frame, a mental attitude about their life, we have to let them know, here's what the expectations are, and you have to coach them up or coach them out of the organization. As I said, it's hard to do when they're kind of a rock star and technically with what they're doing. However, I can't imagine that God has created a world where they're the only person who could do that job. Right.
Well, and that's absolutely true. And we don't want to have you guys think that you've always got control over who you've got in your organization. I mean, if you're the business owner, yes, you do, right? Even like Larry, like you said, even if there's a rock star technically, there's other rock stars technically out there where they've got a better attitude. But, there are times, and I've experienced these, when people have transferred into your organization, and it's like, you can't just get rid of them. It could take a long time, because if they are a rock star, then you've got to be how do you do a performance improvement plan on their attitude? And you can do that, but that takes time. Plus, there's always the situation where maybe somebody has dirt on somebody else, or it's the owner's cousin, and you just can't get rid of them, right? Yeah. So then it's like, what do you do? And I think even those might be more extreme situations. I have faced some of those before, but I think it's still important to say people can also become negative over time. Maybe there's a depression going on that's rocking them for whatever reason. After a couple of years in our organization, they've changed for whatever reason. some experience in their life has caused
Yeah.
them to just be negative about life, so what do we do about all this? How do we handle it? Yeah, definitely it's that conversation, right?
You have to have the hard conversation. I had a situation once where this guy was negative. The word I used with him, and I use it frequently now, is, you're dour and pessimistic,
Mhm.
and he wasn't even aware
Oh,
of
that's
it.
a good possibility then.
Right. And so no one had ever had the courage to say that to him. And believe me, there have been times in my life, and you know where I got that saying from? Take a guess. Someone used that saying on me early on in my career. And so I could totally relate to it. Most people who know me now I don't think they would describe me as being dour and pessimistic.
No, absolutely
But the
not.
situation and the environment that I was in, that's how I was showing up, as dour and pessimistic. And so when I saw it in him, I had the courage to say it to him because I'd been there, and I wasn't even aware that that's how I was coming across, and he wasn't aware of it either, right? So I think that when we have this tough conversation with them, we need to say, hey, here's how your negativity is impacting the organization,
Right,
around you, and frankly, the way people are viewing you, right? Would you rather spend time with people who are dour and pessimistic, or somebody who's optimistic and solution oriented?
Mhm.
Right. So I think that's so I guess number one would be, let's have that tough conversation.
Yeah, have the tough conversation, address it with them, and monitor it, right?
Yeah.
But then, of course, okay, so you do all of that, but then it's like, it just becomes in their nature. Like, let me give you an example.
Okay.
One of the engineers I worked with, hardware engineer years ago, he was great at his job, but and maybe one of the reasons why he was great at finding all of these potential problems with the hardware designs is because he was so negative. He looked at everything like it's going to fail, it's going to be awful,
Sure,
right?
sure.
Right. And and there's just, oh my God, no way to really change him around, right?
Mhm.
So that ends up being the next question is, what do you do in your organization when you've got this negative person? You can't really get rid of them. You're working with them, but it's going to take time generally for them to turn around. So what do you do to help not have that negativity impact us, right? So what are the things that we can do?
I think having an open conversation with anybody who's impacted, because most likely you found out about this by someone else, either water cooler talk, or someone has actually come to you and formally said, hey, being around Dave is like a thorn in my side. He's always negative. And if Dave, you come to me and you're always negative, I need to call you out on it as it's happening.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's one of the best ways to do it. I think then setting expectations and saying, hey, if you've got something negative to say, you need to have a solution for it. Don't even bring the negativity around me unless you've got a solution for it. Right. So you start setting expectations for it. And I think by having a conversation with those people that are impacted and just talking about it, hey, would we rather be part of an organization that's dour, pessimistic, and negative, or do we want to be one that's solution oriented, optimistic, and encouraging of each other? Mm-hmm. Human behavior is to stay away from negativity.
Yes.
It's a repellent, right? And believe me, there have been times in my life where if I'm out at a grocery store, or I hate to admit this, but I've been at conferences before where I know that if I turn on my grumpy, mean face, people aren't even going to come near me. But if I'm walking down a corridor and I've got a smile on my face, it attracts people to us, right? And you cannot be a team player in an organization if people don't want to come up or even address you.
Yeah, right? I mean, you think about it, and you're going on an airplane, right? And you're trying to decide like a middle seat, right? Okay, what middle seat am I going to pick? If you see somebody who's like looking so mad and dour and, like you said, pessimistic and are you going to want to sit with them? No, you're going to look for another seat, right?
I resemble that person.
So please, folks, you're listening to that, just act negative if you want to keep the open middle seat next to you. Don't make it permanent, but be careful. You do it too much, it will become permanent.
That's right.
Isn't that what our folks didn't my mom tell me that? It's like, if you keep frowning like that, your face will freeze. Or
yeah, exactly. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think So I think we've gone through a few things, and maybe, you know, at some point you're going to have to take more of a drastic measure even before you cut them loose, assuming you could do that. But before that, maybe just start limiting who they interact with, right? Or maybe like in team meetings, you're gonna have to actually call them out when they're being negative, and like you said, force them to be solution oriented. And but if possible, maybe limit who they can get access to.
Well, there may be unique situations where this person does their best work by themselves,
Mm.
working in that back corner office or
Mhm.
down in the basement somewhere where they don't have to interact with people. Maybe that's what they want. Maybe that's
Sure.
a good thing. You know, there are those
Yeah.
unique situations, right? But you do need to set the tone for the organization. Listen, I don't want an organization that's all Pollyannish. Let me make sure that we're clear on that.
Correct.
I want people in our organization who doesn't see sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows everywhere they look. Particularly in like your old space, right? You had to have people who are troubleshooters, who are,
Oh, of
who looked
course, we
for
look
the
for
negative.
problems. Yeah.
You have to have that, but there's a way that that information can be communicated more effectively, right? And sometimes, there's a thing called the default face. Some call it resting bitch face, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about
Um,
that too.
exactly. So there are ways to communicate bad information, negative information in a positive way, right? You know that studies have shown that when you are delivering negative information with your arms crossed and a frown on your face, peripheral vision starts to come in, right? You
Mm.
start getting tunnel vision and you don't listen as
Mm.
well. But if you deliver the negative information with almost like a smile on your face, it's like the iron fist and a velvet glove approach to things, people are more receptive to it. So sometimes it's teaching people how to deliver the bad information, because I've heard it before. Like, what, don't you want me to tell you if something's going wrong? Well, yes, of course I want you to, but it's the delivery is as important, and also sometimes more important than what you're actually saying.
Yeah. And
Right?
I know there's a good technique, I think, that I know that you've talked about before, is
What's that?
when you're thinking about a problem, it's like, oh, this problem, immediately turn your head
Yeah.
and acknowledge the problem, but turn your head and say, there's got to be a solution.
Yeah.
What is a solution, or what is an experiment or something I can do to give me more insight in how to solve it? So you're turning that negativity of another problem to, all right, this is a problem, but I know there's a solution out there, because guess what? There always is.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, and before we wrap this up with what I think is, maybe a final step here is, hey, folks, if you're listening to this, you're watching this, and you have experienced negativity in the workplace, how have you dealt with it, or have you seen it dealt with in the workplace? Make a comment, because other people are going to be reading these and could learn from it as well. Or maybe you were that negative person. How was it dealt with? And I just love to hear your comments on that. But ultimately, Dave, we don't need to live with this in the organization. If you're the leader or you're the owner of the organization, you're the one who sets the tone ultimately,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's
And
right.
so if you've coached somebody up, then maybe, and it still hasn't worked, or you've realized, hey, maybe I need to tweak the roles and responsibilities of the person, and maybe not locking them, but putting them, out
Yeah.
away from the general workforce, or making sure that they're not dealing with your clients. If that's not effective, then set them free.
Right.
Set them free, cut them out of the organization. Once you coach them, counsel them. But here's the thing, you can't just walk in one day and say, no more negativity in the
Mm-hmm.
organization, you're fired. That's not fair. It's not moral either. You have to let them know, hey, maybe I
Yeah.
tolerated this for too long before, but I'm not going to be tolerating it much longer. And I know that you can't change overnight, but let's start working towards this. And then if they don't meet that, then set them free. There's going to be another place that they're going to feel more comfortable, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And chances are, if you go in one day and say that no more negativity, well, maybe you need to look in the mirror.
Huh?
Maybe you've been negative
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well, right?
that's right.
So I think that's a really, really good place to start. Is, are you, or am I as a leader negative? And maybe I as a leader am negative towards that team member
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
So there's a lot to look at here, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
but I agree with you. It's like, as so many of these podcasts we've talked about, how to work with team members, it really starts with having that tough conversation.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of that conversation. Get it out there, because, I don't know, Larry, I don't know how many times I've been like, oh gosh, I have to have this conversation. But when I do have it, almost all the time it goes well, and things are so much better on the other side.
Yeah. You feel relieved.
Imagine that tough conversation is going to be awful, and it may be a little bit hard, but on the other side, you're so glad you've done it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's a great point.
Okay.
Again, I would just encourage folks that don't tell your team, hey, don't bring me negative ideas, or I don't want to hear when things aren't going right. Again, it's the delivery. How are you delivering it? Do you have a solution-oriented, problem-solving workforce, or are people just pointing out what's wrong and being dour and pessimistic?
Mm-hmm. You're right. Okay. Well, I think we should wrap that one up.
Yeah, good. Hey, before we do this, hey, I want to remind people that we've got a community for, if you're part of the Victory or the HireMyVA programs, we do have the community. Go there. If you've got a problem with negativity in your workplace. If you're listening to this on YouTube or iTunes, in the comment section, you can of course put comments. I'd love to hear from you on how you're dealing with negativity in your workplace. And maybe you've got some great tools or tips that we can learn from you as well. Would love to hear that. So don't forget, like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah. Like, comment, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, do that. Right. And as Larry said, give us a comment and a rating, because it's going to help other people. As you give to others, you're going to be receiving as well.
That's right. Yep.
And then, at the end here, the final thing is, we'd really love for you to go to HireMyVA.com. You can get all kinds of information about our course and community, so that you can, level up your game as a manager, as a leader, and help your team members out. And, through our program, even without experience, you're going to learn how to prepare for, hire, and thrive with virtual assistants. Right. So Larry and I are helping people. We're in there in the community doing that right now. In fact, we've got a call tomorrow we're looking forward to answer questions. That's part of the what you get when you're in the program. Asking any question, we'll give you awesome answers, and the community gives you answers. So just come on in and experience that with us. So just go to HireMyVA.com for more information on our course and community.
Right. Hey, do yourself a favor, do the world a favor. Go do something significant today. God bless you. God keep you. God hold you. All right, my friends, go get them.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.